Right with you, everybody. Okay, hi, and welcome to our third Gemini pre-full moon webinar. We know, we've been told by the Tibetan that on each of the days prior to the full moon, the Christ is active with one of the keynotes of Gemini, or at least the keynotes of this particular festival. There's the Day of Love, that was the first one. The Day of Resurrection, bringing us into the livingness of God, the planetary logos, and the livingness of all of us as souls in communion, the life more abundant. The great love of hierarchy and the life more abundant, these go very well together. We think of maybe Jupiter in Aquarius or Jupiter in Gemini as conveying that from the cosmic ethers. And then today, the Day of Contact. And this is a closer communion or contact with the Lord Maitreya and with his hierarchy and with each other in the loving bonds of right human relationship, a major theme, maybe the major theme of Shambhala at this time. Humanity holds the solution to the planetary problem, and we are going through a tough time with this fourth minor initiation of our planetary logos right here on our fourth chain, and on our fourth globe. So cosmically is pretty significant what we are passing through, and all of us are experiencing this. Gemini and Mercury have so much to do with the pulls between the pairs of opposites, whether it's the soul and personality, or the triad and soul-infused personality, or the monad and the triadly soul-infused personality. Always the opposite, spirit and matter, and that when there's a rending process, it hurts, it tears, it rips. There is on this planet a fourth purpose of Sanat Kumara. It's all about the process of pain that we all have to go through. But maybe you'll want to read that sometime in the Rays and Initiations, the seven purposes of Sanat Kumara. And this fourth process of pain is interestingly very closely related to Gemini, to Mercury, and to Venus, two of its rulers, and it's taking place right here on our Earth, which is, I think, in all the solar system, the planet where the greatest amount of pain is experienced, but then also the great rejoicing of bringing the pairs of opposites back together under the influence of Isis, as it were, Sirius, Isis, putting all the parts and pieces back together into a unified realization of joy. So we're on this third day of preparation, and it's a mental attitude of dedication. And we will be moving through the another part of the sermon, the last sermon of the Buddha, discussion of what contact really means and some meditation upon that. Tomorrow night, actually, well, it's night here in Finland, but I'll put it in GMT terms. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon GMT tomorrow, Greenwich Mean Time, and 6 here in Finland, we have a broadcast. And it's a broadcast of a meditation service which my wife Tuya is leading, and you know her special quality of leading meditations. It's always very beautiful. It will be in Finnish and English, and you should have received that link today. I sent it out to probably most everybody that would be on this list. And then later on in the night, which is 12 o'clock for me and 9 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, I will give the usual pre-full moon webinar, focusing on Gemini with the illustrations of Francis Donald, the visuals, and with a deeper look at our relationship to the planets, which we have been simply mentioning in these early webinars, but we will go into that more fully tomorrow. So it'll be the full pre-full moon webinar that we normally offer. And then in our morning and at 3 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, we will have here a meditation service which will include the time of the Gemini full moon, and it will be on the same link that you have received. There's a difference between a broadcast and a webinar, so right now we're having a webinar, but the broadcast is something that you can just tune in with the link. There's no possible response. It's simply a listening and participating experience. So that's at 3 a.m. GMT, and it will include the time of the full moon, and Tuya will lead that exact full moon broadcast. Well, friends, probably you have felt the Gemini energy growing. It's really feels to me very, very strong this year. Maybe that's because the great second-ray planet Jupiter is in Gemini at this time. And when you put those two together, you get the merging, says the Tibetan, of spirit and soul. And this is particularly applicable to those people who have Gemini as their rising sign, but it's also applicable to everyone who wants to take advantage of this higher unity upon the cosmic ethers. You know, those are the planes of our spiritual development, namely the Buddhic, Atmic, Monadic, and Logoic planes. So we have this wonderful fusion of opposites going on with Jupiter in Gemini, and there's a great field of unity which is made available to us and in which we can participate in the fullness of love, abundant life, and that kind of contact in which the veils melt away. The ordinarily impenetrable veils which make us feel we're living in a world of many separated things, they melt away, and we feel and we sense a great presence in which we are all present to each other. We are all in the same field of being, the same field of consciousness, and we're, as it were, next to each other, not geographically separated. It's a condition of omnipresence. Omnipresence is often related to the third ray, and when you think about Gemini being the third sign, it induces this omnipresence in the field of love. So that's, I think, you know, just trying to put words on it, it's what we are experiencing together, and I do mean together because, you know, that's the point. We just feel ourselves as souls together in this great reality of unity, which so often evades our consciousness because of the veils we cannot penetrate. But the veils wear thin at a time like this. And if we feel this great energy of love and abundant life, the veils wear thinner and thinner until they are transparent and then evaporate and no longer exist. And that's the unity we all seek to enter together and to live in that. And so for these few days, I do hope at least that we can live in that growing, real sense of unity that relates us rightly to each other and rightly to all human beings as souls, as units of being consciousness. Okay, well, that's my little lecture. And now we will go forward. This is another day of renunciation and detachment, dedication and contact. So we feel that what we are really is the soul in incarnation. We are not the customary self at all, but we are the observer of the body, the observer of the sentient feeling states, the observer, of the lower mind with all its many thoughts, but these all quiet down as we, in a sense, come to ourselves. And in this stillness caused by the planetary meditation, we realize ourselves as the unit of being consciousness, for the moment immersed in the personality fields, but really we can see those fade out, and we can see another field fade in. And it is the field of the egoic lotus, the field of our higher consciousness for this time. And it's as if we, the unit of being consciousness, are in the presence of a spiritual light, a palpable spiritual light. A palpable spiritual love which unites us all in the soul state. A palpable sense of sacrificial will. We are all those things on the higher planes here. And united with each other in this group and affiliated groups, united in soul with each other, all here, as it were, not here and there, but here. Here together and as one. In this realized unity, which is really ultimately a sameness, a suchness, a oneness. And we include all the members of the new group of world servers, wherever they may be, because they are here, with us, as us. And all the men and women of goodwill, thousands of them, millions of them, here, with us, as us. And all human souls, in fact, in the body or out of the body, all mysteriously here. The mysterious oneness of which Master DK speaks. And we can include the entire planet and all its kingdoms, all one being, really. Externalizations of one infinite being, we are told. It's one vast brotherhood of externalized infinite being. Maybe the veils will begin melting away, as if they were not. And we will sense the communion of which Gemini is such a wonderful exponent. Communion, communication, communication ending in communion. These are the states we have to preserve. Regardless of all of the fluctuations in the form nature, they do exist, but we somehow, through it all, we preserve that sense of oneness, which is the real. And focusing together in the group mind, which is now becoming illumined, we add soul power to that group mind. We have the will of the soul, the will of the group soul, in our point of shared mental focus, the will to initiate, the will to unify, the will to evolve, the will to harmonize, the will to act, the will to cause, the will to express. From this point of intensification together, this point of shared mental focus which is illumined, we draw up all the energies of the group personality into that point of focus, and we use the creative imagination to see the colors of the bridge of light, our soul ray color, our personality ray color, or just use the color indigo if these things are uncertain. We will use red for the first ray, indigo for the second, green for the third, yellow for the fourth, orange for the fifth, silvery rose for the sixth, or light blue, and violet for the seventh. We imagine then this bridge of light arising from a point of intensification that we all share on the middle plane. It arises for us, for each of us, in the two colors of our soul and personality ray. And let us visualize that and feel the effect of the colors. These colors will intensify our rapport with the higher triadal realms into which we will now at least imaginatively penetrate. So our bridge rises, as it were, through the abstract mind and the monastic permanent atom, through the gathering intuitional field and the Buddhic permanent atom, through the impending atmic field of spiritual will and the atmic permanent atom. We imagine the bridge rising. And into that field of essential pure being, the monadic field, veiled by the energy of love, and yet revealed by the energy of love. No man cometh to the Father except through me, said the Christ, the exemplar of the great second ray. So here's the bridge for all of us imagined. Feel the connection. It is a multicolored rainbow bridge when one considers the group, all the colors rising from all of us as if cone-like towards a blue-white diamond, rising. And through our imaginations we are all penetrating into the higher worlds together. We can feel the presence of those worlds and their vibration. But to truly connect, we will project a line of living light upward along our particular strand, and anchoring in the blue-white diamond, though passing through all the points in the higher fields. From the soul-infused mental point, yet bypassing the soul, we will project this line of living light, and we will use the second ray word of power. I see as the greatest light. And as we outwardly sound the Om on one of the second ray notes, we will see the living light ascend. Living light, connecting us all. And as we ponder, the Father will come forth to meet the returning Son in the allegory. We invoke and the evocation occurs. This great higher presence descending to meet our aspiration and our projection, our invocation. And in doing this, we are doing a very Gemini thing, because Gemini rules the Santakarana, as does Mercury. We are connecting the pairs of opposites in the highest sense. And we are imaginatively entering the worlds where the masters focus their consciousness. And this is our chance, being aligned in this way, to express our solidarity with these greater beings, our full cooperation, our co-creativity, as we salute them through salutation, being an act of identification with their purposes and their plans. And as a group, we do this. Salutations to the Lord Buddha, the Lord of Light and the Lord of Wisdom. Salutations to the Christ, the Lord Maitreya, Master of all the Masters, teacher alike of angels and of men. Salutations to the triangle of masters with whom we work most closely, Masters M, K, H, and DK. Salutations to the Master M, the head of all esoteric schools and organizations. Salutations to the Master KH, the coming Christ of the age of Capricorn, and the head of the great second ray ashram, whose work is to prepare for the reappearance of the Christ. Salutations to the Master DK, who has given us the blue books and who prepares aspirants for the first 3 initiations. Salutations to your own Master as you know him to be or conceive him to be. Salutations to the entire spiritual hierarchy of our planet, the Great White Brotherhood, the Grand Lodge on high. And in the silence we extend our thought to the center where the will of God is known, and in imagination and with deepest reverence and all humility, we as a group attempt to attune with the presence of Sanat Kumara, the King of Shambhala, the great sacrifice, the foremost example of the teaching ray upon our planet, the Lord of the world, and what may be as much of his purpose as we can fathom. And a very long, silent inner Om, as we imagine the group suffused by this energy of divine will and purpose. Now our alignment is complete. And we are as if a point of light, a point of love, a point of spiritual power. We are all three in one. We essentially are that. The personalities left aside. Above the golden path we hover. And that path leads into the indigo sun. And the path shortens and shortens, and we travel with it till we find ourselves within the center of the indigo sun. And here it is as if the consciousness of the Master DK greets us with his great knowledge of the planetary, zodiacal, and hierarchical energies. And it is as if we as a group become an outpost for his consciousness. And in that consciousness we think toward the three planetary rulers of Gemini, Mercury, Venus, and the Earth. Mercury revealing the pairs of opposites and bringing them into rapport. Venus drawing them together into fusion, making it possible for the angel and the man to become one. And the earth, the field on which this all occurs, helping this planet towards sacredness. These two planets, Mercury and Venus and Gemini, supervise the becoming sacred of the earth. And of course, the Solar Logos is involved in that. These are the energies available to us now. And their rays, the fourth ray of Mercury, the fifth ray of Venus, the third ray of Earth, the great second ray of Gemini. All available. All to be invoked and received and transmitted into the lower worlds, changing the patterns. Toward right human relations. From the planets then towards the great Solar Logos, the Blue Logos, the heart center of a great cosmic Logos. And we are all part of that heart, no matter what our rays may be, no matter what our signs may be, no matter what planet we may be on. It's that heart of love and wisdom pulsating within the depths of our being. We are all love units at this time, and very much so under the influence of Gemini, where the energy of love reaches its high point, we are told. Gemini, the head of the cosmic Christ and the solar logos. Everything immersed in this field of love and wisdom. Everywhere in the solar system. And onward we move in our imagination towards the constellation Gemini, which gives us the light of interplay. A line of light beams, we are told, revealing that which opposes, or the basic duality of manifestation, the relationship of spirit and of form, the conscious light of relationship. Many of us have seen Gemini in the sky, the two brothers brightest of all, and then other stars giving us the oblong square, a Pythagorean rectangle in the sky, the basis of all ratios, of all relationship, of music. A rational relationship. The 1 and the 6. Pollux the 1, Castor the 6. 3 pairs. 3 pairs of stars. The 1 and the 6. The hexagram with the point in the center. We open ourselves to the flow from the constellation Gemini at this time when the forces of reconstruction are strong. What is the key? What is our pondering? I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self I grow and glow. I, the soul, I, the consciousness, recognize my other self. I recognize the self I thought I had been, the lower personal self. I am not that. I'm something other which recognizes that lower self with which I once identified. So let us center ourselves in the group soul. And see as if at a distance the group personality, but we are at a different point of vantage. And our light is growing, is waxing. The light of consciousness growing in all of us as the light of that which we thought we were is growing dimmer. And we are in the true self. First the soul, Then the triad of the higher ethers, a still truer self. Then the monad of pure being, a still truer self. And always we recognize that with which we had identified ourselves as the other. So let our light grow, wax. And let us learn to absorb that other lower self back into ourselves, as the antakarana is retracted into the sun. We are the higher sun, and we retract into ourselves all we thought we were. Until it too becomes irradiated with the light we now radiate from our higher position. And we are in communion in the upper chamber together, in the growing light. And our instrument is drawn towards us and irradiated with that which we are, until it can reflect and itself radiate that which we are. So that when we must work in the worlds, the lower worlds, we are truly the soul-infused personality. We are truly the soul-infused personality of the group. And one day, of humanity as a whole, one day, and we should not descend these days if we can help it. We should not descend into forgetfulness of our true higher self, the higher of the pairs of opposites. When we work within the instrument, let us still be that ever-brightening higher self. I recognize my other self. And in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. So let us glow together until our auras touch into one combined, lighted sphere. And thus it will be for all world servers and for all men and women of goodwill, and eventually, thus it will be for all humanity. The two brothers of Gemini for us are the Christ and the Buddha. They are the East and the West, and their brotherhood represents the spiritual union of these two hemispheres. They are the brothers in the light on our earthly sphere, representing the higher brothers, great cooperators, true fraternity, liberty, equality, fraternity, Aquarius, Libra, Gemini, fraternity. We visualize them as best we can in their cooperation. as we prepare for the full moon itself, we are reminded of the last sermon of the Buddha, which the Christ is said to preach before the entire assembled hierarchy on the day of the full moon. We prepare for that. We can visualize him, his thought, his speech. And in this sermon, the last sermon of the Buddha, which has become the hallmark for discipleship progress, we have been told how to subdue the body's cravings, how to subdue sensation. And tonight we focus on this from the last sermon. And so also when he, the disciple, thinks or reasons or feels, let him so regard his thought that being strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful, he may, whilst in the world, overcome the grief which arises from the craving due to ideas or to reasoning or to feeling. The Buddha is giving us great advice. He says, and so also when he, the disciple, thinks or reasons or feels, let him so regard his thought that, being strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful, he may, whilst in the world, overcome the grief which arises from the craving due to ideas or to reasoning or to feeling. And upon this we ponder. The Buddha had transcended these. He was a great monad, a great sixth degree initiate, walking the earth with us. And he knew the way through and beyond the craving which arises, induced by ideas or reasoning or feeling. And he lit the way for us to do likewise. Freedom from the body's cravings, from sensations, from ideas, reasoning and feeling. We try to feel the great light, great wisdom that comes from him even at this time when he communes with the Christ at this festival of goodwill, this Christ festival. How much he gives the energy which helps us rise above these lower attractions and snares into the world of light, into the higher ethers, in which we find nirvana as but the beginning of the endless way. And let us affirm in ourselves, each one of us, that we can be and will be strenuous, thoughtful, mindful in the overcoming of the inescapable grief which arises from the craving due to ideas, due to reasoning, due to feeling. We can, relying upon ourselves, which is the true self of all and the great inner teacher, we can overcome these snares. And be free and help others become free. And so our gratitude then towards the great Lord Buddha, who stayed with humanity longer than he needed to help and bring an end to the suffering caused by lower desire, basically. Liberating us then from the dense levels of the cosmic physical plane into the cosmic ethers where our true spirituality is focused. And he at this time communes with the Lord of Love, the Christ, whose festival it is, as he focuses within himself all the aspiration, whether voiced or inchoate, of humanity, the upward reaching, longing of the immersed spirit to return unto its true nature and stature. This the Christ focuses in communion with the Buddha. And for this invocation there is an evocation from Shambhala, focused through the Buddha. The invocation, the greatest of them that we have been given, is the great invocation. And inwardly, attentively, sensitively, we will now imagine that we hear the great Lord, the Christ, sounding the great invocation, and we will allow a period for silent absorption of his imagined sounding. This, he speaks alone, we are told. And here is the invocation. We imagine that he is sounding this. We can imagine it in English, of course, or whatever language, but truly the language would be other than this. He's Still, the idea would be the same. We imagine him sounding the great invocation. We assimilate this. For surely he does sound that invocation. On each of the 3 days of preparation, and it must have a tremendous effect. And again inwardly and again with great care. This time we imagine the Christ and the entire hierarchy intoning the 3rd stanza of the great invocation. All together then they intone. And this is the invocation toward the will of God. Together they have spoken it, and it has great impressive power. For that is what they do, and they are real, and we are in relation to these great centers, these great beings of light, love, and power. We imagine this will of God, the planetary logos, pervading humanity and the planet. And we see the human race empowered by this will to good, expressed as goodwill, and our planet beginning to express, and it will surely do so one day, its monad of will and power, which lies behind its second-rate soul. The will to good coming forth through the Christ in his hierarchy and through all of us if we will. And on then to the third keynote of the third day, which is the keynote of contact, of a closer relation between the Christ and his people, between the hierarchy and humanity. This is how Master DK puts it. The keynote of contact, of a closer relation between the Christ and his people, between the hierarchy and humanity. And this we ponder. Right contact, right human relations, which will give sensitivity to each other until our relationships are truly loving and wise and reflecting the archetypes in the heavens. This type of contact and through the attenuating veils, growing towards translucency and towards transparency, and finally dissolving away, we can feel this telepathic contact of soul to soul in between ourselves with no barriers. As a reflection of the hierarchy which has this type of contact undiminished. each with the Christ, who it is said knows every true seeker after the light and the love. He registers everyone in his exquisite sensitivity. Nothing is hidden, all is known. And through that contact he encourages every approaching one, facilitating their approach. So let us learn to be steady points of approaching radiance, rather than flickering lights that approach and withdraw. Let us be absorbed into the great magnetism and come ever closer to the sources. And right contact is the beginning of this, leading to an intensification of contact and finally communion. And so during the coming day we preserve this contact. Making sure it is correct, qualified by right human relations. First love, then resurrection, then contact. Each to be pondered, brooded upon, sustained, applied. As during these days we refuse to leave the alignment, and we remain within it, and we envision through this alignment and our sense of the contact, we and all human beings coming into ever closer relation with the Christ, with his hierarchy. The reality of this contact will bring the expression of goodwill upon the earth. The festival of goodwill, this is what we are celebrating. In World Invocation Day, which for many is tomorrow, but I like to think of it as 12 hours before and 12 hours after the full moon. All over the world, people who know something about right contact will be reciting, intoning the great invocation on a regular rhythmic basis. And we will add our power, therefore, to the achievement of right contact, right human relations, livingness, love, unity. Not words, but real. Spiritual telepathy with no barriers. Lines of light, lines of love. And eventually lines of power. And so we affirm our solidarity with the Christ, with the Buddha, with the assembled hierarchy. We seek to identify with them and to merge our purpose into their purpose, our plans into their plan. We are as if one with them, extensions of their consciousness, extensions of their love, extensions of their sacrificial power. This we must be, or become. And in this merging, we imaginatively merging with them, bless the world in silence. May the Maya be dispersed, the glamour be dissipated, the illusion dispelled, and no barriers exist in this luminous, lighted, loving, empowered network. No barriers to the reality of the energies of the higher worlds expressing within the lower, where they are so needed. Our appreciation then for these energies of Gemini, which are infusing us, we are imbued with them, they will be growing. There is still time before the full moon, which is on the morning of the 25th. (4:24 in the morning and 55 seconds in Greenwich time. And we build towards that. We build towards that, sustaining through the coming day the sense of contact, that closer approach, that communion with hierarchy. And so, as if in union with the Christ, the hierarchy, and all disciples of the world, and overshadowed by that subtle, pervading light and wisdom of the Buddha, we will together, on this third day, sound the third stanza of the great invocation, sensing that it is the will of God that Shambhala, the Christ, the hierarchy, and humanity may come into true and real contact, and may therefore and thereby cooperate in the redemption of our planet. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. Friends, let us sustain what we have touched, and let us experience the thinning of the veils. Let us experience contact real, and remain in the network of true relations, wherever we may be and whatever circumstances may surround us. Let us so remain, intensifying our group point of tension during the coming day. As I said, we will meet again tomorrow at the same time, but before that, at 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, we will have our meditation service broadcast led by Tuya, and we will also have the full moon, exact full moon meditation service, and your link has been sent to you for that. So, friends, thank you for attending. Keep the point of tension, sustain this. The energies are very strong. Jupiter in Gemini is strengthening these energies. They should have a very strong second ray effect, a major ray coming through Gemini and through Jupiter. And we will send you the link to this video and audio as soon as Brett and I can get it ready, and we thank the staff for helping us send these webinars to all of you. Thanks, everybody, and let's hold it. I'll be with you again tomorrow. All the best, and have a wonderful, sustaining, great Invocation Day, World Invocation Day, the rhythmic intoning of the great invocation. Bye-bye for now.